This is the Average Guy Network, and you have found Home Gadget Geeks, show number 195, recorded on December 11th, 2014. Here on Home Gadget Geeks, we cover all the favorite tech gadgets that find their way into your home. News, reviews, product updates, and conversation, all for the average tech guy. I'm your host, Jim Collison, broadcasting live from the AverageGuy.tv studios here in a very warm, actually, we had a very nice day for December, Bellevue, Nebraska, and we post the show with world-class show notes each week out at the AverageGuy.tv. If you have questions, comments, or contributions, you are welcome to contact us anytime you like. Send me an email, Jim at theaverageguy.tv. And I want to say thanks. You've been sending me more emails recently, so I appreciate that. You can track me down on Twitter at jcollison, and Christian's just blown past me at this point. So nothing that you can do, nothing to help me. Christian, what is the latest on your Twitter account?
We're at like a solid 2150 or thereabouts.
It's still growing at the same fantastic rate.
Yeah, I did a bit of pruning, so yesterday was a bit low, but it's Social Bro has it on its usual curve, so we'll see.
Okay. So on Cyber Frontiers, we'll talk about it, but on Cyber Frontiers, we've been talking about building your own kind of Twitterverse thing. If I did that over there, would I be able to do some things to catch up to you?
You just might.
Okay. All right. I still got to do that. I haven't even had time to mix that show yet, much less do what's in the show. So we'll get to, if you're a Cyber Frontiers listener, and you should be, by the way, both Ashton and Christian on Cyber Frontiers every other Monday out here at theaverageguy.tv/live. And what I'm hoping is you'll get to know him tonight. You probably know Christian. You may not know Ashton. So you get to know him. We want to pull you over and have you also listen to Cyber Frontiers. Not quite commitment over there, just every other week as opposed to once a week, but we'd love to have you join us that way as well. And now Home Gadget Geeks is a part of the Geeks Network. You can find the links to this show and many other great podcasts, and we're getting ready to add a few over there out at thegeeksnetwork.com. Join us in chat, listen, or watch live on YouTube or on Spreaker and Mixler as well. Find all the navigation that you'd ever need to do anything you want out at the Average Guy. .tv. All right, I mentioned this just a few minutes ago, but we want to welcome both Christian and Ashton to Home Gadget Geeks. Ashton, I think this is the first time we've had you on Home Gadget Geeks, right?
Yep, this is my first one, so it should be fun.
Very cool. Well, we've gotten about 10, I think 8 or 9 or 10 Cyber Frontier series with you. When did you start? Do you know what number you started on?
I started on 6, I think, 6 or 7.
So we've done
like 7.
Yep, we got 7 with you, and I have to tell you, Christian, don't take this the wrong way, but you and Ashton together, you've really amped up the Cyber Frontiers game, right? I mean, there's some really good stuff that's out there. If you haven't joined us for Cyber Frontiers, I think probably the most impressive thing is it's got its own website. Even though the podcasts are out at theaverageguy.tv, you guys have Cyber Frontiers Labs running, and you have some stuff out there as well. Christian, talk a little bit about your vision for Cyber Frontiers Labs. What are you guys hoping to do? How does it fit with the podcast? Those kinds of things.
Yeah, I mean, Cyber Frontier Labs has really been the project space where you basically get to do some hands-on things outside of the podcast, right? So normally, podcast, you listen to it, you take and do some stuff on your own, but you may not necessarily, like the materials that you take home with you, if it was like a school, for example, you would get homework assignments, you would take home textbooks, right? The things we give you to take home are show notes normally. So after you've listened to the show, you go back into those show notes and you pick out your projects and you do things in your life based on those resources. So Cyber Frontier Labs is where we host a lot of cool project resources. So like to give you an example, for the Twitter example, where we basically teach you any person, doesn't matter what kind of programming experience or anything you have, anyone can go out and in 10 minutes set up their programming bench and basically start analyzing streaming Twitter tweets from around the world, which we put some big data applications and spins on it for our listenership. But again, we made it so that pretty much anyone from the average guy on up can get something out of it. So we do some hands-on things like that. Ash and I also this semester built our own developer sandbox. We covered it in depth on some of the earlier shows, and that has been a way for us to do hands-on projects that we showcase on the site and on the podcast, and then say, hey, can you make it better than what we did? And so we're trying to give you the resources to go and do some of these things on your own and make it better than we could. So Cyber Frontier Labs is really a glorified show notes with some cool project resources that we host and data sets and so forth. So it's a syndication, to be honest.
Yeah, no, good. And we just crossed, Christian, we didn't even, well, actually today, I think, or yesterday, the 10th, December 10th, 4th year anniversary of what was Home Tech and now is Home Gadget Geek. So congratulations, Christian. Kicked that off with me 4 years. I didn't even think about it. It's not even the show notes. I was just remembering, I think we started on December 10th.
Yeah, for sure.
I think was the show when we first kicked it off. So congratulations and
cheers.
And thanks for cheers as well. Thanks for podcasting with me for 4 years. That's a miracle.
You bet.
It's been good. We've done a lot of different things. Ashton, you're the newcomer to podcasting with us. No podcasting experience before you started joining us. Kind of in the fall, right? Is kind of when we brought you in. We came back to school. Everything kind of settled in. The wall is the testimony behind you to, I think, how long we've had you on the podcast. Because when we started, it just had one cereal box up there. But what have you learned through podcasting? What's the experience been like hanging out with us?
Oh, it's been a great time. I guess it's kind of made me more aware of the things that are going on in cybersecurity. Just talking to you and Christian, and made me more interested in the current events side, and also a lot of the things that we've done in it's kind of abstract when you hear about, there's Apache Spark, or there's this new big data application that's out there, and you're not really sure what it entails to do something with it. So having the opportunity to come up with an idea with Christian and implement those and demonstrate those, like we did with Twitter, has been kind of a cool experience, because it lets I personally really like hands-on experience, and trying it out and being able to show something based on that is something I really enjoy doing. So those are just a few things I've gotten out of it.
Good. Has anybody at school, have you gotten those guys to watch it, and they kind of, have they started thinking about doing it themselves, or you got any comments, feedback, that kind of stuff?
No, I think I've showed them some of the stuff I've done, and they're like, wow, this is really cool. They kind of balk at the idea of watching an hour-long podcast just because we're all so busy, and we kind of, it has to be quick.
Yeah.
But I think that they're, especially some of my friends, interestingly, a lot of my friends are asking about it, the applications that I'm using and doing demonstrations with. They ask about them for their internships, because they will be asked by their bosses, like, do you know anything about these? And they'll be like, I think Ashton's done that before. Because they're always looking, a lot of companies now are looking for these next generation of machine learning, big data applications and cybersecurity applications, and the fact that we've had a chance to try some of them has kind of piqued their interest, and the interest of some of my classmates as well.
Yeah. No, cool. Yeah, it's certainly our target audience, or our demographic is professionals, 35 to 55, and a lot of people listening to it in their car or earbuds on work, not necessarily geared towards your generation, and yet you're there at the ACES program at the University of Maryland. You guys live this kind of every single day. Christian, you have certainly had a lot of influence in there. You've you've been podcasting with me for 4 years. What do you take away from podcasting after 4 years? I didn't plan to ask this question, but I find it kind of interesting. What do you take away after you've been doing this with me for 4 years?
Yeah, some of it ended up getting spilled over into a post that I did on my personal blog, christian-johnson.net, on the promise of the internet is real and is for everyone. And some of the layover from that kind of flows for me personally into the podcast, because I found that similar to what Ashton said, my world in terms of the community I was speaking and engaging with just grew in ways you don't expect when you're doing this. And it's not until you're sitting in a guy's living room taking apart his box that you know because he's a listener on your show from 4 years ago, and you happen to bump into him. I mean, these are the types of stories that they aren't things I made up. I mean, they're real things that happen. And so the takeaway line I always have now is, because of the podcast, XYZ happened. And just I have some really, really crazy, because of the podcast, XYZs happen to the point where, some of I refuse to repeat because they're just too funny. But, it just has been really inspiring to see how many people are so engaged in these topics, and that, for me personally, has been a motivating factor to, try and be that technology evangelist that really, brings the content to you guys, because you provide the energy for such a dynamic experience. So I've really gotten a lot out of the community building aspects. I think it's done a lot for me personally, going through this experience through high school, through college. It's absolutely terrifying and scary to go back to Home Tech 001 and say, my God, is that the same person podcasting 4 years ago? I mean, it's like something out of a movie, to be quite honest.
I listened to that the other day, by the way.
Yeah. And I sit and I think about kind of the living record, meaning, I don't see myself quitting podcasting anytime soon. I love this stuff as much as you do, and I think that's going to be so weird. One day you're going to have an archive of just everything since high school on the internet, and it's just going to be, your face is out there. And that's especially weird when you're like 14 years old when you start. I mean, you don't have as much change, so you got some of that priceless.
I don't know. I've changed quite a bit in the 4 years. I went back to 75 the other night. I was watching the video of it. Those were the early video days. My hair was different. It wasn't quite as gray, and you're like, wow, I've kind of gotten old in the last 4 years.
Yeah. No, I mean, it's pretty cool. Again, I think as a podcast community, we have lived through some very interesting transitions in the technology that I think on this show have been really cool to watch. I mean, I think when I think about geek stuff that, a lot of our listeners love, I go back and think about things like what Kyle does with drones. I mean, our podcast community lived through the commercialization of bringing drones to the average guy. I mean, that's just a cool thing. I mean, we would not be saying these things if we had been doing this podcast in the early turn of the 21st century, right? Just being able to say that, that's a cool thing to look back on another 10 years from now. I go back and think to Windows. I mean, we used to have some of the biggest just heated debates about this thing called Windows 8 and how awesome or terrible it was going to be. I look back at it and I laugh now. I mean, it's hilarious. I still am using Windows 7 to this day, but I find it funny how much life or death some people put on that, myself included, full disclosure. So, I mean, but we've lived through a lot of cool technology changes, and even, a lot of listeners are home server show guys. I mean, that has been incredible, right? We lived through the whole death, birth, maturity cycle and final death and graveyard of a Microsoft product that touched hundreds of thousands of homes and boxes, and huge communities were started around it, and you guys are the reflection of that community. I mean, I can go on and on about this list, so it's just amazing to see what we've been able to do together as a community and the information we've been able to share. And I mean, I think we're all better people for it. I mean, I wouldn't trade that experience for anything, really. It's been great being able to speak with you guys and have that conversation through you.
Yeah, likewise. And Ashton, as you think about, you're kind of new to the podcasting community. Oftentimes you get behind the microphone, you catch a little bit of the bug. I know for me, I don't get sick of this. I like getting in front of the microphone, talking to people. As you think about coming to Cyber Frontiers, do you kind of look forward to it? Have you kind of caught that bug yet? Is it a medium that's there, or do we still need to give it a little bit more time for you?
That's tough. I mean, so I struggle with the fact that it's fun to do podcasts and it's fun to sort of produce content, because 99% of the time you're on the consuming end, especially as a student. But then I wonder if I know enough to be a producer, and I want to put out content that's valid and useful and I don't want that take away from the time that I'm learning. So I don't know if that makes sense, but
Yeah, no, I
think
so.
it might be, I'm no expert yet, and I kind of want to wait until I am able to say, like, I have a really good handle on this. I can, demonstrate this with confidence to people versus putting out, spending my time trying to create stuff instead of spending time trying to consume stuff.
Right.
I think for now, at least, I need to be in the consume phase, and then, maybe when I become an expert in something, I can start to produce.
Well, yeah, and you're a lot.
I don't want to get caught into.
You're a lot more of an expert than you think in a lot of ways, and you're we kind of drug you into this exercise. I think you do very well at it. I think you're a natural on this in the 7 or 8 episodes we've pulled this together, and I think it'll just keep getting better. And it's a way to give back, and you don't have to be an expert. You just have to be willing.
Yeah, I mean, I'd like to think I've improved in the 14 weeks I've been here, give or take. So
yeah.
No, it's been fun.
Natural. You've done really well, and it's been great to have you and pair you with Christian, and we broke Christian off of Home Gadget Geeks. We bring him back once a quarter or so to be on the show to talk about some stuff and catch up, and this is one of those times, and so let's dig in a little bit. So Christian, great 4 years with you, and we'll look forward to 4 or 40 more. God, would I live that long? I don't know. That would be a long time, and we'll keep moving forward. Well, one of the things I wanted to get with you guys tonight is talk a little bit about the tech, kind of catch up. We've done, Christian and I have done these kind of college theme podcasts that we do probably 2 or 3 times a year, where we just kind of catch up with them, what's going on at school. Lots have changed when we kind of did this at the beginning of the semester with you there, because you were in a brand new facility, Christian, and Ashton, you weren't even on Cyber Frontiers yet, I think, when we were doing that. And so I want to catch up with you now at the end of this semester, and especially now that you've been in Prince Frederick Hall for the whole semester, getting ready, to not leave food out or candles lit or those kinds of things that we talked about in the pre-show. So I want to get some reflection on the gadgets you're using, because it's a gadget show. We want to talk about some of those things. So let's dig in. Let me first start with Prince Frederick Hall. And Ashton, let me start with you. I kind of want to hear your opinion. As you got there this year, has it lived up to, I mean, there's a lot of hype going into this thing, right? And going into the facility, there's a lot. And it's very, very cool. Has it lived up to your expectation there? And what kind of technology has worked? What's been good? And kind of maybe what's been they tried and was a bust?
Right. So the quote I'm going to use here is, the people in California don't realize how good the weather is. So even though we're all so privileged and we're so lucky to be living in this building, we still find things to complain about, which is honestly ridiculous. It's beautiful here, and just from the architectural and commodities and comfort side, it's great. We have, I think, pretty close to gigabit per second internet speed. So if you're wired in, it's like blazing fast.
And has that lived up to the hype? I mean, is that actually everybody gets that great throughput all the time?
I don't know. It varies. So if you're wired in physically with the Ethernet cable, then I would say yes. If you are on the Wi-Fi, you may not stay connected for another 5 minutes. You may not get 3 megabytes per second. It's just kind of a toss-up with the Wi-Fi, but the wired-in Ethernet is very fast, and I think that has lived up to the hype. I haven't necessarily used it to its fullest extent. I don't watch a whole lot of streaming video content, I guess. Maybe in occasional TV shows and stuff, but I haven't had any problems, so I'm certainly happy with it.
Okay. Any security related? Certainly, when you think, I mean, it's got to be a pretty secure building. Is the tech pretty good on keeping it secure? You guys have to have special passes to get around and that kind of stuff?
Well, yeah. Physically, it's pretty secure. So you have swipes to get in the door, swipes to go in the elevator, and then swipes to make the elevator go to the floor that you want to go to. And yet, somehow we still have students from outside the building that end up in our lounges just to study. And I guess that's kind of because the building is so nice, everybody's like, yeah, let's go and like hang out and study there. And it's kind of weird when you're used to seeing like your floor in that study lounge, and suddenly there's just
Yeah, you're like, hey,
strangers.
what are you doing here? They must
Yeah,
follow. They got to follow people in, right?
yeah, I guess so. I'm not entirely sure,
Have
but
friends there.
the physical security is pretty decent. The interesting thing we noticed with um, the way that the Wi-Fi is set up is that occasionally you will be given a private IP address and you'll be on this little like subnetwork or private network with a few other people, and occasionally you'll be given a public IP address, which is kind of weird. And you can also see all of the traffic unencrypted from everybody else going to and from the router, which is I don't know. It's kind of weird to know that they can see you if they want to. You can see them. I mean, it's only like a few people on your floor, but still, it's just it's interesting to know
Okay.
that that's a thing that's going on. I know Christian could attest to this because I think one of those days when we were doing Cyber Frontiers, he was streaming our network traffic through Wireshark in the background.
Yep.
We were watching that happen in live
In
real time.
Yep.
So just something to be aware of. But
Yeah.
probably better that it's the local people here saying, well, I don't know. We are in the cybersecurity honors college, so maybe not.
Christian, for you, what's worked well? What's been a bust?
It's interesting. So I've been the student board president for the group now for the second year, and so I've lived through almost, it'll be 2 years by the time we're done here of ACES 1 of, brand new program, lots of stuff to figure out and make work. Some of that comes from the administrators, some of that comes from the students pushing for things. I think one of the great things that we have finally seen come to fruition has been our lab, which took some time to get set up this semester. Definitely we didn't get it ready for students as early as we would have liked, but now seeing people down there every day getting good use out of it, that's a really rewarding feeling. I'm really glad that worked. Again, the network infrastructure that Ashton was talking about, both from a bandwidth perspective and from just access to campus resources and technology, is really pretty remarkable. I can't think of many other public institutions that would have the level of support that we do in that regard. There are advantages and disadvantages to having our program floors the way we do. The way Prince Frederick was set up was that you have your living parts on the upper floors, and faculty, staff, administrators are not allowed to go on those floors because they're personal housing. That would be very strange for students to see professors getting into their building, which is why they made it, when they designed this building specifically, they made it so that the program floors where like the professors' offices are and the lab and those public learning spaces are, they're kind of isolated, right? So you have to be in either the ACES or Design Cultures and Creativity program in order to be able to get to the other side of the building. So there's kind of that double divider door where your card will work on both if you're in one of those honors programs. If you're just living on the 6th or 7th floor, you don't have access. So my whole point in saying this is that the advantage is that we've had a really secure environment down there, and our students haven't had a problem with that. Disadvantage of that is that our students don't get to kind of see and walk by professors and other people in our program by happenstance. When we were in the engineering honors college, it was almost impossible to walk to the diner without bumping into someone from the program, so from the faculty side. So that has been a little bit difficult. We've been putting in some innovative solutions around that, but definitely from like a technology and building perspective, it's exactly like Ashton said. Like, we find really nitpicky stuff to complain about, but we're living off the fat of the lamb, as they say in reading and literature, and I mean, just the resources that this program has given to us has been really awesome. And again, I think the level of diversity and ability for new students to come into the program with their predetermined major and gain this outside academic experience has been really remarkable. I mean, I hope to see that continue to grow, and it definitely goes without saying that the living learning component where you have social events and you interact in that personal manner with students, and it's not just about the classroom. That has made it so much more entertaining and more valuable as an educational program than what it would be if it was just a classroom thing.
Awesome. No, good stuff. Ashton, sorry about that. Sorry I made you drop by trying to do the screen share there.
I don't think that was you.
Oh.
I accidentally closed the window.
Okay, no sweat. Ken had asked in chat if we could get a screenshot.
Yep, that's why I was like trying to close the. I screwed up when I was trying to post.
No sweat. No sweat. You're good.
So here it is.
Perfect timing. Yeah, let me share you.
Okay, hopefully that comes up.
Screen share that note. Yeah.
Yeah, it was a Facebook picture here.
Use the green. Use the green button.
Yep. Yeah, this was. I don't have the original photo, so I'm gonna show you the Facebook photo I just found because I was showing it to my friends who also live in Prince Frederick, which I guess was unnecessary, but I think I got here like one day early.
Oh, good heavens!
Is it showing?
Yeah, it is. You bet. Yeah, 800. So for the audio only, 853 down and 897 up.
Yeah, so pretty speedy.
Pretty sweet. And I love that. Are you on the University of Maryland? Question mark.
It's correct. Yes.
and a ping of 18 milliseconds, which isn't the fastest in the world.
Wait. Oh, you're not doing that right, Ashton.
Well,
whose millisecond ping? Is that yours? Oh, you need better hardware, Ashton. I'm sorry, but your laptop is just not doing it justice because I get 4 millisecond ping times like every single. I don't think I've ever seen a time where it wasn't a 4 millisecond ping time for my system. All right, here we go.
We're throwing down. Here it goes.
I just did one.
Down the gauntlet.
Special.
We're gonna do it live. Here, hold on.
All right.
We got dueling. Christian threw his up there. Let's go ahead.
So my bandwidth will be a bit lower because I put in my own gigabit router and buffer it between a private network, but my ping time will be excellent. Yeah, 3 seconds. Or milliseconds.
Let's just watch this thing run here.
Yeah, and I mean mine will cap at about 500 because I put my own router in here that buffers traffic between mine and my roommate's PC. But if I plug in directly to the wall, I'll get 900 down, no problem. But yeah, 3 millisecond ping time is awesome. Yeah, the only thing you got to be careful of. So again, why did I put my own router in here? One was because I like to have a private network with my roommates so that we can do some cool hacker stuff. But two, these are public IP addresses that we get in this building, right? So you're literally just placing your desktop and plunking it on the World Wide Web. And I don't think students who are not like computer science or cybersecurity inclined, they have no idea. They're just like, oh, I plug it into the wall and I got myself some internet. And I'm like, good for you. Now your whole machine's exposed on the World Wide Web. So, like for example, if you were to get those certain viruses that turn off the Windows firewall and make your life hell, if you ever got one of those and your firewall was off and you were plugged into the wall like that, it would just be a very unpleasant experience. So that's why I love having my own gateway behind the public IPs, because it's literally like plugging directly into the backbone of the internet. And I don't know, Jim, do you want me to talk a little bit about Maryland's history of being a really basically part of the internet?
Give a 1 or 2 minute overview.
Yeah, I mean the 1 or 2 minute brief is that University of Maryland runs one of the root DNS servers in the world. We're one of like 10. Pretty much all the other people who run the root domain DNS servers now are military and government agencies, and we're the only educational institution. And our backbone fiber is part of the core of the internet. I mean, if someone were to drop a bomb on our data centers, you would see some serious outages happen because we are one of the company I used to work for, Mid-Atlantic Crossroads, is a peering point to high-speed fiber all throughout the country, and we work with Internet2, which is another peering agency, and we have one of the largest DNS volume queries out of all the root DNS servers. We get a ton of queries per day, and so We've always had a very rich history of open and free internet on this campus, but always the most high-tech internet that you would ever see on a campus. So that's part of the reason why we have such awesome internet, is because we are literally, when you plug in your computer into your dormitory jack, it is a fair statement to say you are on the backbone of the internet. Quite truly.
Very cool. That's some good bandwidth, and the chat room is giving you no love right now.
The vicious.
They are not happy
viewers.
with either one of you guys. Well, we get it. We're just jealous. I mean, it's a pretty cool deal, and you know, really for the average guy at this point, you know, I think most in the United States, for most communities, for most people, they're getting somewhere between 20 and 50 down, and 1 and 10 up, and for most people it works. You know, now that's not everybody. I know. A lot of my listeners are in some very bandwidth-starved areas, and they're going to hate us when we show that to them. But that being said, you know, it's for most people, their bandwidth's adequate for doing what they do, and so very good. Hey, wanted to ask you about gadgets a little bit. Ashton, I'll start with you again. Did you bring this semester? Did you bring many gadgets? You got much? You know, when we think about gadgets, phone, and all that kind of stuff. Watches, all that kind of. You bring much with you, or kind of what's your gadget status? What do you have?
So let's see. I have a MacBook. That's what this is on. So I know they're pretty pro Windows on at Gallup, and I was expecting Christian to say
there's a whole contingent there that are Mac.
Well, I guess I was just speaking from my exposure to Christian. I was surprised he wasn't going to be like, when he said your hardware is slow, I was surprised he wasn't going to make a poke.
Make a Mac crack.
But so I brought that. I have a monitor here, which I've been very happy with. It's actually the same one as my roommate's. The Samsung, I believe it's 24-inch, I think. 1920 by 1200, I want to say. I'm not sure.
Okay.
And so that I've been pretty satisfied with. I have the hard drive right here, which 1 terabyte Seagate hard drive, or no,
Western Digital.
Yeah, Western Digital.
Mm-hmm.
So I have my whole laptop backed up on there. And what else do I have?
Phone? What's your phone?
My phone. I have the iPhone.
Okay.
4S, which is brand spanking new because last semester I took a swim with mine and kind of just like casually waded into the pool with it in my pocket, which it was not happy about. And I was like, so I'm in the pool with it in my pocket, and it starts vibrating, and I'm like, oh, hold on, guys, I got to take this. I like take it out, and I'm like, I'm an idiot.
That would have been great. That would have been great to film. Hold on, and then as you pull it out, everybody's looking at you like, what the?
And so $450 later, I got the same phone, but they took away my upgrade for the 5S, which I would have gotten for free, and now they're like, well, you have to wait 1 more year. So my whole family is getting 5Ss in January, and I won't have mine until whenever I decide to pay for it.
Just hold off and get the 6.
Yeah.
Just hold off and get
So first world problems there, and then what else? I have a what do you call it? GPS watch. I think we figured out what version it is, but I don't remember what it was. The
like a Garmin.
Yeah, Garmin Forerunner. Couple versions old. I can't remember 10? What it is exactly.
10 or 20.
I can grab it. It's like right around there. But
you're a runner, right? And so you keep track of all your runs that you do. Have early in the year you'd gotten Christian running? Is that still working?
That's kind of so that fell apart before this, but I haven't run in like a month because I've been injured. So.
And I haven't run for a month because I've made convenient excuses about how busy school has been.
We've both been pretty busy. We should have done it before I was injured, but now it's kind
We're
not
gonna get
possible.
back with some awesome February running for sure.
Yeah, well, it's tough. I mean, it's easy to let things all fall. I let things get in the way too. And Christian, you've been making some infrastructure upgrades and pinging me all hours of the day and night with some of that stuff. And so it's kind of easy to stay busy. Ashton, anything essential when we think about school? What has been your essential, right? If you could, one gadget thing you'd have to have. What do you got to have?
Definitely my laptop. I mean, I couldn't really function without that because I do all of my work on it. So that's internship and all my schoolwork and anything else. So
Yeah.
that's pretty important. I didn't bring any other, like, I don't have any other computer devices. Like, I don't have even a tablet. I don't have another desktop at home. This is it. So
Okay.
I mean, I've been pretty happy with it. I'm thinking about keep getting new hardware for it. So I upgraded from 4 gigabytes to 6 gigabytes of RAM, and I may go to 8 gigabytes, just because sometimes I'll do VM stuff on it or other sort of memory heavy stuff, and definitely going to get the SSD in the next week or two, probably 240 gigabytes, 200. I don't know what they come in, 250, somewhere around there.
It depends. Just depends
Yeah.
on the drive. Yeah.
So, but yeah, definitely most dependent on the Mac.
If there was one thing that you don't have that you wish you had, what would that be?
I think I kind of do. I like the idea of a tablet. I just don't know if it would be worth it for me. I do like that. I definitely prefer reading on a tablet to reading on a newspaper, or any other physical media. I didn't think I would. If you'd asked me a couple years ago, I would have said no. They're not as good. They'll hurt your eyes. But I've kind of changed my mind on that. They're just so much easier to carry around than a book or a newspaper. So I don't know. Probably the Surface is definitely interesting. It's caught my attention, just because it's sort of like the combination of the laptop and the tablet idea. But I don't know. I haven't really considered it.
It's an ultrabook, right? I mean, so you have another PC, but
yeah.
I'm with you. I live on my laptops, and I couldn't live without them. That's, to me, I've tried doing all the other stuff, and at the end of the day, I keep coming back to the laptop. That's the perfect device for me. So cool. Christian, the opposite here, because Christian's more of a hardware guy, I think, than you, Ashton. You're pretty content to operate on the stuff that you've got and aren't too worried about the specs of what they are and stuff. You just want them to be functional. Christian, that's anything but for you, right? I mean, you're kind of a hardware spec all the guy. What did you bring? Let me ask you, what did you bring this year, and maybe what did you bring that you didn't have last year, or what did you leave home that you just didn't need?
So before we start there, though, I just want to mention one gadget that Ashton has that he just totally missed, which I think is essential. It was essential for me when I was learning how to run, was Ashton's GPS watch with
he mentioned
that.
Oh, I thought you mentioned the other, the fitness. Never mind.
Do you have a fitness band too?
Nope, Ashton? I don't have one.
I thought you got. Yeah, Kevin
Actually,
has it. That's what I was
speaking of my roommate, I'm gonna let him in because he's at the door. So I'll be right back.
But yeah, that has been for me too, like super awesome.
Well, it's interesting because I've got the 220 and it's just GPS, no smart stuff to it, and I really I'm preferring it to a smartwatch, so to speak, especially for running, because it's just really good.
It's super accurate too. It's impressive.
Yeah, it's really good.
But yeah, so getting to my hardware stuff, the big things for me have been, I have a pretty similar configuration to last year, so the essentials for me, like, can no longer live in the CS Major without them, have been my two 24-inch Dell IPS monitors. They're gorgeous. I wake up to them every morning. They're just that prized possession that literally sleep by my bedside, because I basically set up my own personal school office right next to my sleeping area. So they're super essential, though. I get really bogged down and feel like very unproductive when I don't have the screen real estate. And so the two 24-inch monitors have just been entirely essential to me doing well in this case. So that has been, I'll keep these for the rest of my undergrad easily. The other major thing that obviously two 24-inch monitors like that, you need a good desktop to power them. So I was one of maybe, few people that had a desktop on the campus my first semester of my freshman year, right? A lot of people just came with their laptop. They didn't really know what to expect. And what ended up happening was people started trickling in and being like, "Oh, I kind of like this desktop thing. It's not so bad." And full disclosure, it's a pain hauling this desktop in and out during the semester, especially because I have one of the full. This is like a Coolmaster half 920. These things are heavy as rocks. Either that or I'm just flimsy. I don't know which, but probably a little both. But
we should get Christian doing push-ups too. Good job.
Yeah.
We've gone to the gym together.
Yeah.
It's a fun
hey,
time.
Ashton can tell you how I almost broke the record on the. I'm trying to remember the name of
the
it.
rope.
The rope.
Yeah.
It's pretty impressive.
Really? Climbing the rope?
Yeah, it's like it's not. I wish it was an actual rope that you could climb, but it's just like you pull it down and it rotates.
Oh, okay.
And we have like contests to see who can go the farthest. I think you were within like 10 meters of feet. I'm not sure what it does it in of ours. So
of the record,
pretty good for the one time that we went together.
Which was set by Kevin, who is probably about twice my size.
Yeah.
So that was fun. Anyway, but it's been, a lot of, I slowly started watching as like, oh, guess what? Now my whole suite has desktops in the room, right? Over the summer, my roommate built his desktop. I helped him build that. Then the other roommate, Franz, who was on Cyber Frontiers earlier, who does Cyber Skyline, he's had his desktop probably as long as I have. But his roommate just built one this semester. So a lot of guys now in the upper level class have desktops, and that's just like.
So your whole suite has desktops.
My whole suite has desktops with dedicated monitors at this point.
I think you are definitely the only student. You might be the only suite at the University of Maryland that all has desktops in their room.
It's pretty bad, to be honest, but it's awesome. Everyone always comes in my room and they're like, "Wow, like this is a really great setup. Like, I gotta try this." And I'm like, "All right, it's all yours." And then they're like, "Wow, yeah, I gotta get this." So, I mean, again, I could never go back. I use my laptop for in-class, and sometimes it's to my detriment. I can easily get distracted on that. So, like, one of the things for this year that I changed is, like, I do not take the laptop out of my bag unless I, like, utterly need it. Just because, like, I've found there's a value add to note taking in your head and on loose leaf that just and especially true. It's especially true because like a lot of the classes I took this year were more math related, so like you just don't need a laptop. Keep it in your backpack, but they can easily be distractifying machines as well. So I've gotten a lot more disciplined about that now that there's no high school teacher yelling at you if you're not distractifying yourself. So that's a gadget that can be to your aid or to your detriment. So it's knowing when to pull it out that's kind of helpful. I did go ahead and put an SSD in that during the Black Friday. It's kind of the equivalent of like the rescue dog, right? I got it out of the pound after a year of being out of commission in our basement because the power adapter where you normally plug in the cord had gone totally broken and damaged, and when my dad looked at it, he thought it was soldered onto the motherboard, which is a pretty good assumption because that's the case with most laptops. But this HP DV6000 turned out to have a modular power adapter. So I said, sweet, how much would it cost for me to buy a new one of these parts? Turned out it was $10, so I scrapped the whole thing down in August when I came back from work and rebuilt the whole thing with the new module, came back up fine. So I was like, sweet, I'll take this to school. Put in this SSD and it runs like a champ. So for under $100 with the SSD improvement, I'm running a pretty great laptop and all I really need to use it for is internet, email, word typing, so not a big deal. And if I want to do anything intensive, honestly, what I do is I open up a remote desktop and remote desktop to my desktop back in the dorm room. So that works the best for me. I gotta be honest though, I'm kind of envious of the guy in my atmospheric science classes who's fancying a Surface Pro 3 right next to me as if like he knows that I'm gonna drool over it. So that's a cool looking device. I can see that definitely being in use. And I would say iPads have definitely been pretty popular for note-taking on our class too. I don't have either of them. I really don't have any dedicated tablet device on campus at this point.
Do most? Do you see a lot of that, or is it really mostly laptops?
I mean, I would say maybe a quarter of students have some type of tablet device. Maybe that estimate's a little low or high. It's hard to say, but I mean, I've seen a good number of people with them. But majority, but definitely everyone has a laptop. It's a cool add-on if you have a tablet, basically. I've also seen a good number of people who have the laptops that are touch screens, where it's like it's still a laptop, but you can touch the screen literally. So, you know, it's whatever kind of makes you happy, but everyone pretty much has to have a laptop. But yeah, and I mean the other value add too is I'm still on the original operating system on this desktop and I have been since I upgraded it from Windows Vista back in 2008 when I had this thing from HP and I rebuilt it into what is Flamethrower. So for me, there's a real value add in being in that same environment. I've never upgraded out of Windows 7, but it's helpful because I have everything organized in like a super specific way that there's definitely a productivity value to having an operating system that like the back of your hand. I mean, there's a difference between saying I know Windows 7 and I know my Windows 7, meaning all my settings are right, all my quick links are the way I mean, that stuff takes just time to tweak and get right. If I had to redo it all over again, it would take me years to do. I mean, because it's taken me years to get it this way now. So, I mean, I have conversations with people a lot about, oh, it'd be like so cool to, build another box and all that. But I'm like, yeah, it'd be cool, but this box does everything I could possibly imagine I want it to. It powers these two monitors. The graphics card is great. I can spin up VMs. I can manage my network remotely. I got full access to my Buffalo network, full access to my Maryland network. Everything I could possibly ever want to do on this machine. There's nothing limiting about the hardware, and it's still, believe it or not, connected to my Windows domain network back at home in Buffalo, New York. So it's pretty cool. When I want to have a secure connection, whether it's for communications or for connecting my network, this actually uses a secure VPN connection to drop back into my network in Buffalo using Windows Server 2012 R2 Essentials remote access. And I do my Windows backup still through the Essentials with the dashboard and everything. So, I mean, that stuff's been pretty great. So I kind of I'd like to think of it as I bring a bunch of compute power with me on the go by having that Buffalo infrastructure remotely accessible from this device. And I've also, it sounds crazy, but I'm probably the only crazy enough person in ACES that actually brought his own servers with him from Buffalo and installed them in I'll just say undisclosed locations throughout our campus. So, I have some of those. They help me do some things, and that's just me being a total geek. Probably don't need them to be honest, but they're fun. So, I have some 1Us and some towers, and I get crazy, but I love it. In terms of like mobile devices, I don't think we talk about phones enough, but I swear I don't get through my day on this college campus without my Note 2. It's the only thing that has a large enough screen that if I need to quickly shoot back an email to someone on campus or, be doing business transactions, this is the device. I can never go back to a phone that's smaller than this screen size. It's just, it brings a whole new dimension to getting stuff done, and I think we're seeing that trend. I mean, one of the guys on our floor he got about a month ago the iPhone 6 Plus, and I'm like, that's the first Apple phone I've seen that I was like, that is way cool. Like for me to like an Apple product is when I'm a converter that big things are happening at Apple, right? Because I mean, that was sweet. The screen resolution was pristine. The size was great. It looked like it had the productivity. I mean, those are the phones of the future for me, for sure. A lot of people are laughing that we're going to go back to flip phones at this rate, and maybe that's true. But that has been, if you want to talk about one of the most useful gadgets to have in emergency situations or on the go, that's it. Still gets full days of battery life. I plug it in at night. I get through the end of the day, and on a good day, still have like 40-50% battery life. I have push It's not like I'm limiting the battery life. I have it set to do direct push email notification, which is a battery intensive thing. So I mean, I love that. It's been great. And that's, arguably, again, one of the more important devices that have been in my network here.
Wow, that's a mouthful.
Yeah, sorry.
Nice job. No, you're good. You're good. You're good, Christian. That I think they joke that 6S is a iPad Mini. Almost size. It's so big.
What are they calling it? The phablet?
The phablet. I mean, people called this Note 2 a phablet, and I was like, but that iPhone 6 Plus, man, let me tell you, that's a phablet. But it's awesome.
It's not really that much bigger than what you have, is it?
I don't know. Maybe it's just because it looks sleeker, but it was a nice looking device.
Yours is pretty with the case. I'm surprised you can get that into your pocket.
Oh, everyone says, can you even fit that thing in your pocket? I just want to
heard that a million
smack
times.
It makes me so angry. I'm like, dude, guys' pockets are huge. Like, I don't know what planet you live on, but they're huge. Here's what it looks like without the case on. I mean, it's a nice phone. I love it. I dig it. Yeah, I would say maybe the 6 Plus is marginally. I think the 6 Plus might have a better resolution. I'm not sure. I can't remember what the resolution is on this thing, but it's fluid, dude. This is great. Live by this thing for sure. And I've dropped it so many times. I would be dead without this OtterBox, right? I mean, this thing has suffered some serious abuse from me just randomly dropping it while bike riding or whatever. So if I didn't have this OtterBox on it, it would have been, and it's in great shape with the OtterBox. So I'm gonna keep it on.
So it's not waterproof though.
It's not waterproof.
No.
Nope.
That's probably what I should have. I should have a stupid proof phone. I don't know if they make those, but yeah.
So that's kind of the gear. Have you guys seen? So in the 2 years, year and a half at this point with the student body, you've seen many changes take place. I mean, the technology certainly changes all the time, but any trends that have been changed maybe since early in your freshman year that you've noticed kind of over time with the student body at all? Is that too short of a time?
In terms of like the technology they use?
Well, like Christian, you'd mentioned, you've had an influence on the desktop, the people around you. Certainly as groups of people get together, they start to have an influence on each other. It just happens. And so in your situation, I mean, you're a pretty special situation, much like our rake school here at UNL. You're all together all the time, having heavy influence on each other. Has that had an influence on either one of you? I mean, Ashton, let me ask this question. How are you different today than you were 18 months ago jumping into the program? What makes you different today?
In terms of hardware?
No, just in terms of anything, education, tech, whatever. I mean, what kind of major changes has it done for you to be in the program there?
Well, I've learned so much. I mean, it's night and day. I think like having hands-on experience with my internship and with Cyber Frontiers and with all the courses at my honors college and just in program classes, I've learned a ton. So I have a much better grasp on the study of computer science and still don't feel like I've even scratched the surface. And I think like in terms of having an impact on like the groupthink mentality for devices, personally I feel like there's been a kind of a move towards Mac devices just because they seem to be integrating them so much. Like if you have the iPhone, so my roommate has a Mac. Let's see, all my roommates except for one have a Mac, and my roommate's girlfriend just got a Mac because she wanted to sync with her phone. And I can think of other examples of people who have just gotten Mac devices for that reason. And it kind of makes sense. Like it's really, really convenient to be able to text people from the Yosemite operating system. I think I just upgraded to it. I haven't upgraded my phone, so I can't do this yet. But you should be able to text anyone from the computer, and that's really convenient. You can already do it with other people that have iPhones, so that's nice. And having that terminal is also pretty convenient. But I digress from the original question. Just mainly, I'm much. I've just gained so much experience that I didn't have before in terms of getting towards that. If you're thinking in terms of the 10,000 hours it takes to become an expert at something, I've put in a considerable number of those. I don't know what
Yeah,
exactly.
you're headed there, and I'm
Yeah,
not fishing. I'm not fishing for anything. I just,
yeah.
wondering, what kind of influence. Christian, let me pose that same question to you. What's been different, or what have you seen? How have you grown? What's different in the last 18 months today
Yeah,
than it was?
I mean, I think I've grown a lot in the software side, right? Not so much the gadget side. So, like, for example, how do you set up your Eclipse bench to be the most badass hacker on the campus? Like, that's stuff I've definitely learned here.
Hmm.
I think all of us, share tips and tricks on how to have, like, the best looking shell, the most, the best fonts. I mean, and it sounds like really dumb stuff, but this is the stuff that makes or breaks, like, good coders from excellent coders and coders that don't make mistakes. So, I've learned a lot in that regard from other people in my group, from just like things you can do to reduce the amount of errors and debugging you end up having to do by just making smart decisions about how you're writing these programs. So that's been like really effective for me. Um, as a from a technology perspective on the hardware side, again, the desktop thing is a huge trend. I mean, Ashton was talking about how the iPad and the laptop from his roommate's girlfriend, how she wants to be able to sync different things. Even my girlfriend, when she comes and uses these two dual screen monitors, it's like I can't get her to get off my computer so I can use it. And she has an 18-inch Mac that has like a full resolution, but as soon as you go from one screen to two screens, it just makes things so much better. So I think that's a trend that kind of continues for most students who get in ACES and see how we have set things up. Honestly, if I hadn't come in with these monitors this way and other people hadn't, I don't know if it would be a trend. I mean, it's arguable that a lot of people did it because we were those guys our first semester of freshman year that decided it was worth our time to try and haul these things up here and get them set up. So it was interesting. I think, like Ashton's saying, the big thing is in the learning aspects and the academic commitment. I mean, a lot of us wouldn't have gotten where we did if we weren't kind of collaborating together on the learning aspects and how you study and prepare for some of these course contents, which, some of the stuff is not easy for sure. So, having guys working together on what's the best device, what's the right tool for the right job, I think is the takeaway there. And us sharing that in addition to how you actually apply and use these tools, that's been pretty cool. I mean, I think that's a unique aspect of the ACES program that is very unique to the university itself, because it's that very tight-knit community within a community that you get the resources of a large university campus, but you have that tight-knit group that helps you cut through the red tape, and that's been a huge advantage that I don't know where I would be if I didn't have that.
One of the things I'm going to say, and so Randy, I'm going to pick on you a little bit. I'm not picking on you out in chat, but he brings up an interesting point. And let me say, one of the things I think I've been surprised, Christian, I've said this to you personally several times, and I think we just had this conversation the other day. Ashton, I've never said this to you, but it will apply. In that I've always appreciated you guys, that as smart as you are in the program that you're in, and here I have the Average Guy Network, right, which was designed originally to really reach people, because I thought, the premise behind the whole network was that with technology, the average guy's kind of screwed, when it comes to it, right? Because it was so hard to do stuff years ago with computers loading Windows 95, 98, Windows 2000, drivers problems, viruses, all that stuff with Windows, all the stuff we went through. And I wanted to create a network for the average guy. Christian, you jumped in here and started helping us. And we've had some great conversations. One of the things I've appreciated about both of you is that you don't make us necessarily feel dumb. We don't know. You guys are smart in what you do. A lot of things we don't know, but I've never felt like I've been talked down to, or it's like, oh, come on, Jim, figure that thing out now, would you? You guys have done a nice job. I hope your peers are that way as well, because I think maybe this generation of tech is maybe better than it was before, when it was like, hey, we're smart and you're not. So anyway, so thanks for at least the two of you. I can't vouch for the rest of your class.
Sure.
Ashton, maybe you can vouch for the class. I don't know, but it just
Yeah,
seems
I
like...
mean, the interesting thing is, like, so I guess there's this perception that, like, oh, you guys know a considerable amount which I don't know is necessarily accurate after a year in the university classes and the intro level courses. But given, let's assume that's the case, even then, because we're surrounded by so many other students in this amazing honors program, I feel stupid all the time. Like I mean, not intentionally, but my roommates make me feel stupid because they just do such amazing things. Other people in the program do, and I make mistakes like you wouldn't believe. So it's not like I have reached some Zen state where I'm above all and I am one with the code and I don't make errors anymore. I just produce beautiful, thousands of lines of code a second. It's just like every day I screw up, and so it's not hard for me to imagine when other people don't understand what's going on technologically, because a lot of times I don't either, and it takes a long time to get used to it. So I guess like that was sort of that's actually one of the main things I've realized. Like in high school, I guess I was kind of more of the top, closer to the top percentiles in my class, and now I feel like just within the honors program, that's not the case. There's so many brilliant students in different disciplines that you can't really ever hope to be at the top, because people are experts in everything, and you're always learning from them.
Yeah. No, I've just always appreciated the fact that you guys have been super humble in that and willing to help in that way, and not come across that way. It's easy to do that. And Randy, I'm not picking on you. It was just a great example, though, of I am really, I look forward to podcasting with you guys all the time. You blow by me a lot of the time, with the stuff you're talking about. I don't have a clue what you're talking about sometimes, but it's been great to have you on and for you guys to share, all this stuff, which is all very cool. So I just want to say that I've seen, Christian, over the last 4 years, I've seen you grow into this role. Although even as a 14-year-old when I met you, you were very approachable and very willing to share what you know and help anybody anywhere. I mean, dude, you're the dude behind BIOS Mods, right? I mean, you're the guy who's really lifted that and helped people with getting these BIOS mod stuff. You're very willing to do that for people and to help people. And so anyways, you guys are I think the shining examples of what it can be for people who are very, very technical in what they do, and so it's just fun. I just like hanging out with you guys. So I'm just glad you let me hang out with you. That's that's the cool part.
I mean, the stark reality is, though, is neither Ashton nor I would have gotten here without a lot of help from a bunch of people, right? So it's like, for anyone really who's in my position in this program or otherwise to be like, I did it all myself, I'm a genius. It's like, no, just go home right now. Like, I mean, there have been so many people that have pushed for us in the right direction and have given us opportunities to learn. I mean, it's all about. That's why podcasting has been such a great experience for me, because it's a chance for me to keep building that community forward and really turn back into what people have given to me, which was they gave me lifelines. I had some serious mentorship throughout my younger years that there's no way in hell I would have gotten as far fast with the technology as I did if they didn't put every day into letting me just bug them until they were blue in the face with questions and ask for help. So that's a thing that podcasting kind of transcends for me. The other thing is I feel incredibly privileged to be on a campus like University of Maryland, where we have some of the best faculty in the world for computer science, right? I mean, we're the institution itself is in the top is in the top 15 in the world for CS. So just sitting and listening to some of these guys, you learn so much. It's like, it's really great. That was part of the reason why I wanted to start Cyber Frontiers was, man, if I can just take a snippet of what some of these really great, smart professors are saying and try and re-script it and rewrite it into normal average guy conversation, this stuff is valuable because it transcends the research paper and has some really practical meaning when you get out of the theory of it. So again, it's always a privilege, and we've had some serious resources to help us get there.
No, and behind every great student there's a great set of parents, and of course Gary and your mom for you have done a lot for Ashton. I haven't met or know your parents yet. Maybe someday I'll get the opportunity to do that, but I'm sure they're very supportive.
They're awesome as well. And, people like you that give us the opportunity to talk about these things are pretty amazing as well, and the community, and yeah,
Yeah,
just a lot.
have you shared the podcast with your parents? Have they seen it?
They have. It's maybe the Cyber Frontiers may occasionally deviate from the average guy
Yeah.
or girl.
Most
So
times.
I think
Most times.
they watch it for a couple of minutes and they're like, well, we get the picture.
It was good to see. It was good to
It's
see.
good to see you talking.
It's so good to see you. Why don't you call more often? So, hey Ashton, I know you need to run.
Yeah, I'm gonna
talk.
need to.
Yeah, you do. I'm gonna talk with Christian about Alexa here in a second, but want to say thanks for coming out. We can cut you loose and say thanks
Okay.
for coming out. If you're interested in more of Christian and Ashton, of course, Cyber Frontiers every other Monday out at theaverageguy.tv, and we'd love you to subscribe to that as well. So, Christian, stay around. Ashton, thanks for coming out tonight, and get cracking on those test scripts.
Sure. All right. Well,
Whatever you got to do.
yep. I'm gonna bust them out in the next hour and 2 minutes.
Yeah.
And
Get
hopefully it works out.
rolling. All right, man. We'll
Thanks,
see you.
guys. Have a good
See you,
one.
Ashton.
The drawback to podcasting with college students is they actually have work.
To actually go to school. Fancy that.
They got to get done in the process. But and Randy had said out there's a great future topic: mentors. Love to hear the stories of mentors that have made a difference. Christian, you had sent me a message on Skype, said, hey, let's not forget Alexa and alexa.com. And interesting, and then bring this to an average guy or an average, somebody who has their own website, right? Because this is kind of a service for somebody who has a website. But talk a little bit about that, give a background on it, and why you're using it.
Sure. So I've been working a lot with, BIOS Mods has seen a lot of growth in the last 6 months, and it still continues to amaze me how much that site has relevancy to some of the modern problems with these, UEFI systems and newer laptops and tablets. I mean, I honestly thought that the internet would have lost interest in this kind of stuff a long time ago, and it keeps taking off. So, Google Analytics tells you a lot about what's going on in your site and gives you a lot of data, but it's all about you, right? It doesn't tell you anything in relation to how you're doing with other sites and similar profiles and similar sites that are covering content. So, I've been using Alexa every day now to track what my global average is in both global and U.S. rankings, and it is very interesting because Alexa has a way to basically, they have 2 tiers, right? They have this free service, which you can go and type in pretty much any site that gets traffic, and it will approximate how popular is this site in the world, right? Which is pretty interesting because I'm not sure how they're directly measuring this or indirectly measuring this, rather, given that it's not like they have the Google Analytics script installed in your code, right? There's a second tier where if you certify your site metrics and you have a pro version, you can get the exact number, but Alexa comes pretty close in estimating this for all sites globally, so they probably have some partnerships there with internet providers. But the whole point of this is that it can tell you some really interesting things about how you stack up to your competitors, what's going on in search engines. I mean, again, Google Analytics and Google Webmaster Tools gives you a lot of this, but I think it's really interesting to get some perspectives. And one of the questions I was asking myself tonight was, is it really worth the $10 a month for me to go and buy this first tier of pro service from Alexa, which basically gives you kind of some of these insider intelligence tools that kind of help you give the leverage in pushing that ranking up and up and up. And my philosophy has been, well, if I can keep moving my site to be in the top 100K sites globally, and that number just keeps going down as I use this tool and make adjustments to the site based on what I'm seeing from this tool, maybe it is worth the $10 a month for me. So I'm trying to weigh that, but obviously something like Google Analytics is free, but this is pretty interesting. So just to give you some perspective, in the last 2 months alone, BIOS Mods has jumped about 80,000 positions in the global index. We're almost in the top 100K sites globally, and we're just short of the 100K sites in the U.S. We're at 110. We closed at 110 today, which means that we need to pass up 10K more sites in order to be in the top 100,000 sites in the U.S. And we were super close last week. We were at 102K, and it slipped back a little. And the number fluctuates a little bit every day, right? So, I think it's a really cool way to do some strategy behind your website and really say, like, what are the content things or what are the keyword things that I can do to make my sites move up on that ranking. And when I use Alexa, I think of it very differently than when I use Google Analytics. So now I'm kind of deciding, is it worth $10 a month for me to play around with Alexa? And I haven't come up with an answer, to be honest. I'm not sure yet.
I might have to try it for $10.
Yeah.
Just give it. You keep sending me these reports. We'll pop on a Skype and you'll be like, "Hey, check this out," and you'll send those over to me.
Great.
One of the things we've watched at The Average Guy, there were some questions in chat about that. What has it done? I think we've seen two things that we've done over the last couple months that's really increased. I haven't really changed content that I'm doing, so it's not like I added more content. Same podcast coming out, Home Gadget Geek, Cyber Frontiers, Home Tech Tips, a couple reviews from time to time. But you did a site map, so talk a little bit about that and how you do that. That's one.
So like with WordPress, right? WordPress, you're building URLs, you're doing posts, and you don't want to take the time to build a sitemap yourself, right? But there's a lot of plugins for WordPress. You can just go to the plugin manager and do a search for like Google Sitemap, and what it does is it builds an automatic. It really is, at the end of the day, it's just an XML file that lists all the URLs that exist on your website, the priority they have of how important they are to the site, and kind of some basic features of the content, right? And you submit this URL to Google Webmaster Tools, and it basically tells Google, here's how my site is laid out, here's all the links, etc. And what Google will do is it will then use that sitemap to have basically a blueprint for how do I crawl your website, right? So Google obviously crawls websites whether or not they submitted a sitemap, but if you give Google a clear blueprint on how to crawl it, it's going to do better. So I had realized that somewhere in the migration from moving the Average Guy network from Verpus over to the Buffalo network that I had just totally dropped the ball in the sitemap being automatically updated with this plugin. So when we did the switch to HTTPS and I added the new site property in Webmaster Tools, I also gave it a brand new sitemap with everything dynamically updating, and we saw a bump. I've seen a bump this month in the Average Guy of about 700 sessions a month just from, and I think it's purely just from getting more seeding in Google. And Google makes it really easy to track that, right? So if you go to google.com/webmasters and you add your site property, I'm just looking real quick for the Average Guy here, but on the front page of Google Webmaster Tools, it shows you how many times your website appeared in the search result in the Google search engine, and from those times it appeared in the search result, how many times it clicked through. And the Average Guy is at an all-time record. I've never had it this high, right? So yesterday, the Average Guy had almost 3,000 search impressions in Google, and 100 of those were clicks. And to give you an idea, before I put on the dynamic sitemap and got things working right, that number was maybe like 40 a day. And now we're seeing 100 a day. So a noticeable change. That's really great. So, again, with Biosmods, I'm doing this at a very large scale, right? So Biosmods averages 40,000 impressions a day in Google search engine. We show up 40,000 times a day in Google search results, and from those 40,000 times, we get about 4,300 clicks come through Google. So that means about, on average, 10%, it's about 10%. Click through to our site, which is actually a very high CTR in the whole SEO space. We're seeing with Average Guy about a 6 or 7%. So, there's a range from somewhere between 7 and 12% CTR. I'm like, hey, mission accomplished as a webmaster. That's pretty great. To give you an idea of the size of a site like Biosmods, we have 17,000 URLs that Google has accepted into its search index. So, 17,000 pages. So, from a webmaster's perspective, I've really learned how to kind of play, manage, maintain, and tweak this stuff. So I wonder how much Alexa can kind of help me augment my plans. I have found one of the big things that helps with all this is the infrastructure, right? If you have a website that's faster than all your competitors, people are just going to go to your website. It's just the honest truth. It's a brutally honest truth. People don't want to pay the money and take the time to invest in infrastructure because they think that people will, love the content. And yes, while content is obviously content and community are the two most important things. If you're not supporting it with the technology, people are just going to get bugged about it and just move on. So I've seen a lot of growth by having a platform. I mean, and I'm just going to be brutally honest with you. My web platform probably outperforms 90% of the virtual private and shared hosting space. I mean, I've spent hours on this thing to the point where it's like, man, if there's someone out there that's doing it better than me, their name better be Google or Amazon Web Services because I've, worked my ass off on this thing, and I like to think it's a pretty enterprise-ready thing, right? So, and actually, I guess this is as good a time as any to say it. I'm going to be offering, I think starting in 2015, I've finally decided that I'm going to offer up the Buffalo Network web hosting as a service for people who want to. If you want to have a really great fast experience like the average guy or like BIOSMods, I'm gonna start letting that be a public thing. So I've done a bunch of security and infrastructure upgrades for it. So at this point, it's just making sure all my management stuff is right so that I can automate, putting people on the platform and providing the right support. But it's a really fun project too because I've had to basically learn how to build a web server that can handle Facebook-like volumes of traffic. Now, no, I'm not getting billions of site visits a day, and I don't have 5 million load balancers, but in reality, same principles apply. So I've spent a lot of time working on, how do I use hypervisor for live migrations, for failovers, for power outages? How do I keep the network super secure, keep bots off? And I feel pretty happy that after 3 years of really investing my time into this infrastructure, I think it's ready for public consumption. So I'm going to give it a go, see what happens.
Yeah, cool. And we'll have some information out there on the average guy if you're looking to maybe get get your WordPress. For me it's just a WordPress site, and I have some storage out there. Christian serves all our MP3, all our audio files are on his servers, and I've moved. Didn't want to throw all the video out there just yet, so I'm trying to be kind to the bandwidth usage, and I didn't necessarily need super fast servers for that, and so we've moved the video. I shouldn't say moved. When I started doing video, besides YouTube, we put it on Mediafire, and that's worked great for us. They've been a great service, but of course it is pretty fast. And Christian, I'm glad we've been able to provide this as a project for you. BIOSMods, high traffic, high community, the average guy, we're trying to do the same thing with it, although it's a part of a larger community when we think of Surface Geeks, Home Server Show, those groups that we're a part of.
Yep.
And as we put all these podcasts together in this loosely bound network we call the Geeks Network. So no, it's all fun. And so I asked Christian the other day, I said, hey, I get questions about this all the time. You probably should have a rate sheet. And so he's going to be putting one of those together, and we'll talk about that. And it'd be kind of cool, a good way of supporting Christian and some of the stuff he does, and we're pretty excited about that. So, anything else, Christian, we missed as we we're at about our time here? Anything you want to? Any last words?
Yeah, I mean, we can talk web in a post show for a bit, but I think that's the official cut on it. No, I mean, can I think of anything else that's important? No, I think we got some great topics out tonight. My God, I guess the 4-year anniversary mark brought some cool memories back.
I wasn't even planning on that when we got in there. But yeah, and I don't, it's I think Ken had said in chat earlier, in our 5th year we should do some look backs, and yeah, maybe think about that. 5 years would be a long time to put some stuff there and to think about it. So. Yeah. We'll those kind of things you want to plan in advance. I need to do a better job of that. For me, over the last 4 years, let me end as we kind of come in for a landing. I am as excited about podcasting today as I was 4 years ago, or really, if you count Home Server Show, 5 years ago, when Dave McCabe kind of let me jump in over at HomeServerShow.com and be a part of that. Really, I got the bug. And we've done 200 shows here. We're well into Cyber Frontiers. I've probably done 200 shows between financial tech, fitness tech, all the other tech shows that we did we're starting them up there for a while, a couple of months. And now I get to guest host on some Ask the Podcast Coach with Dave Jackson, which I'm having a blast on. I'm Tech for Coaches with Andy Sokolovich. I think of the time I'm getting to guest host on Surface Geeks with Dave now as a Surface guy. And if you head out to theaverageguy.tv, maybe you haven't been out there in a while. You've been listening to the podcast, but you haven't been out. We did a redesign, a site redesign months ago, maybe 6 months ago, and added all those properties to it. So you can now see Home Gadget Geek Cyber Frontiers at the top, but if you go below the fold, you'll see kind of the new home tech tips and reviews. The reviews section has its own place. And then every place I kind of show up as well, other podcasts, Ask the Podcast Coach, Surface Geeks, and Home Server Show. They're all out there. It's for me, this is kind of building that catalog of things I get involved in. And then recently, of course, I've picked up podcasting out at Gallup, and they're not showing any signs of slowing down. And this week I did 7 webcasts of some kind in 3 days, and I set a new record for myself. That included Cyber Frontiers that we included in there, but I almost consider that a work podcast now, Christian, because I manage both of you guys. Not Ashton yet. Ashton will join the team coming up this spring, and so I manage you guys, and it never started that way. How cool that we get to work together, and we're coming up on 7 months now. Do you start in March?
Yeah, well, according to LinkedIn, my 1 year is coming up in late February. So
okay, was that late?
Yeah.
Yeah. No, so I'm so glad that it worked out that way, and we have all those things. We have you mentioned this way back in the beginning. We have all these things recorded, right?
It's a living archive.
195. Now, you haven't been in all of them, and since we've had in Cyber Frontiers, we've kind of cut you loose from Home Gadget Geeks, but
right.
I've got literally hundreds of conversations with you, all archived.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
It's ridiculous. I mean, think of just about, from a public perspective, you want to talk about like gadgets and infrastructure and how much the cloud has impacted our lives. There's no way we'd be doing this if stuff like Google didn't advance. I mean, the Google Hangouts infrastructure, Skype is an infrastructure, all these things kind of came together right at the right time. I mean, if we had tried to start Home Tech Podcast maybe 2-3 years ago before when we first started, it would not have been as easy. The bandwidth would have been a problem, the tools would have been a problem, the broadcasting server would have been a problem, the CPUs weren't quite there yet. Where the heck are you going to download this? I mean, you had to be a guy with big bucks to do this stuff back then, and cloud has made podcasting and internet radio an average guy thing where anyone who has a will can get away, which is amazing to think. I mean, that's incredible.
Yeah. No, right on. And I think yesterday, 2 days ago, I was going back and looking at some of the early episodes we'd done in Hangouts.
Yeah.
And those were like in the 70s. And before that, it was all just Ustream. And those videos are somewhere. I've got some of the 40s and 50s and 60s buried deep in an archive somewhere. But it's one of those things. It's one of those things where, and we're going to wrap this up here. I know I got a lot of folks getting going. We're coming to the hour 20 mark, so let me wrap it with this. But that being said, hey, Home Gadget Geeks, we're going to go a while on this thing. It's kind of fun to look back. I was just watching one of those, and I was like, wow, has the infrastructure really improved? I mean, we are getting great audio and great video now without really much work, and it used to be a lot of work. So.
I mean, I remember when Skype used to just bug out on you, and you're like, oh, come on, like, just make it for another 20 minutes. And Hangouts, unless you accidentally hit the power button on your desktop, it's pretty hard to let the Hangouts, get away from you at this point. I mean, we have not had any podcast outages that I can think of in the longest time.
Yeah, it's been a while. It just kind of works now. And tonight we've got great video. I'm just like, I've been talking about Google changing their infrastructure, and they have been working on some things behind the scenes. And I think we're finally out of that. There has been some painful moments from the summer and in the fall that
sure
not great quality, and there were some problems. But man, lately they have just been dynamite. Tonight's pictures are great, so pretty cool. Well, as we wrap this up, I'll remind you, December is Leave a Review for Your Favorite Podcast month. I just made that up. I made it my own thing. So if you're on iTunes or any of those other podcast directories and you're thinking about, leave us a little review. That always kind of helps. With the search rankings and those kind of things. So we appreciate that. Don't forget, during this Christmas season, and you guys have been doing a great job of it, but don't forget to use the Amazon affiliate link for the Average Guy Tech Scholarship Fund if you want to do that. And so head out to theaverageguy.tv/Amazon. Bookmark it. That's probably the easiest way to do it. Just make a bookmark somewhere in the tag or whatever and choose. Encourage your family to use it, whatever. If you're in Canada, our Canadian residents can use theaverageguy.tv/AmazonCA. And, of course, those proceeds go to John Zadler, and he'll build stuff. Hopefully we get enough of that, and he'll be able to build stuff and review it here on the program. I need to get Zadler back on. In fact, I have Zadler scheduled to come back on here in the first part of January. So as we look at the shows that are coming up for you, John is coming back here pretty quick. I want to say January 9th, but let me just double check here real quick. I could be wrong on that. Where is John Zadler? It's the 8th. I was close. Actually, an annual show now. I hope that's turning into it early January. John Zadler, Chris Barnes. And so Chris Barnes, that guy's got some radio pipes. I mean, he just is a smooth sounding guy. So Chris Barnes coming back on, and we're excited about that. Later in January, Amber Gott will be back from LastPass, and then I'm bringing Kevin Schoonover on to catch up with Kevin, and we're bringing back Andrew Morris. Wow. He's coming back. Well, just for one show. Anyways, we haven't heard from Andrew in a while, and so Andrew's coming back. So we've got some great shows ahead for you in January. If you haven't signed up for the newsletter, just a way for me to email you stuff that's going on here in the network, and I only do it once a month, so it's not spam. Head out to theaverageguy.tv and find the newsletter link and just put your email address in there. 50, 60 of you have done that, and so love to have you out there do that as well. We have a Kickstarter project going on. I'm going to throw this in chat real quick, but it'll also be in the chat room. We are working with the guys over at On Air, and so if you haven't done this yet, check out the Kickstarter project that's going on. They are selling little hockey pucks that you can plug your media into, and it doesn't aggregate any of your music. It just federates it, and they can play your music from anywhere to any place as long as those devices are turned on. It's pretty cool. And they've got a brand new Kickstarter project. They've got some $40. They started at $35. Those are sold out. Now $40 is there. And eventually these will be $50. So if you want to get $10 off and pledge towards a Kickstarter project, we had Daniel on last week, and you might want to check that out on 194. And those might be a good thing to check out. If you haven't done a Kickstarter, this might be the time for you to jump in on one of these things and get it done. We are live every Thursday, just about every Thursday. We'll be taking Christmas, and I'm Christian, I'm flirting with a New Year's Day one. I haven't decided yet what I'm going to do there, but New Year's Day falls on a Thursday, and I still might do one on a Thursday, and I don't have anything lined up, but we'll get that figured out. But at least just about every Thursday, 8 p.m. Central, 9 Eastern, out here at theaverageguy.tv/live. We want to thank you for listening on our 4th year anniversary, and some of you have been here the whole duration, so we want to say thanks for doing that. As we just discovered tonight, going live, it's been 4 years. That's just crazy to me that we didn't realize that coming up. That's how much we don't pay attention to these things. So we'll be back next Thursday night. Goodbye, everybody.
Good night, everyone.